Welcome everyone. My name is Steve and we have a particularly good night, we think, tonight. If anyone wasn't on Thursday night last, this will be a sort of a continuation of that. There'll be some new information, Alex tells us, and going over a bit of the old stuff, which you may feel what you will be interested in. So, without further ado, we welcome Alex.
Don't clap, just throw money. Great to see so many familiar faces from last week. As you know, I'm probably going to cover some of the same ground for those who haven't heard this before, but it might also be good for you to have a refresher course as well. So I will be asking questions, as you know, and you know some of the answers, so don't yell them out. Let everyone have the choice of doing it. For those of you who are here for the first time, you're going to hear stuff that may shock you, you're going to hear stuff that may surprise you, and you might get stuff that makes you go, what the? And all of that's okay. I'm not a lawyer, okay? Get that really clear. Don't believe a word I tell you, okay? These are just my awarenesses. And I'm sharing my awarenesses to give you a chance to understand what's happening with this country at the moment. Now, I know you've probably got questions about certain topics, so let me know the topic and I'm going to write it up on the board so I make sure I cover your questions and your concerns before you walk out the door. Okay? Who's got some concerns about anything? Land ownership. Oh, I love that one. That's good. Land ownership. The people here on Thursday night could probably tell you all about this. Okay. Anything else?
The Voice.
The Voice. Great show. I thought about going on it once myself. Oh, you meant the other voice? Okay. As you can probably tell, I have a lot of fun. I don't take this serious. I'm very serious about it, but I don't take it seriously. I don't worry about it, because I know what's going to unfold. I have fun with it. So when a policeman pulls me over, I go, oh, here we go. Chance for a little bit of fun. Chance to raise the bank balance, etc. Okay, and I'm going to give you a lot of information, and I'm going to go pretty quick. Anyone got any other topics, like councils? Or...
Digital currency.
Digital currency! Which, of course, is not currency. Anything else?
Surveillance.
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 Nice watch.
Big brother.
Does that happen, does it? Surveillance. Good one. I can't spell it.
Spying eye.
Ants. Yeah, that's it.
I
have one for you though. Why do draconians are your friends, or reptilians?
That's a topic for another thing. You can ask me later, and I'm happy to answer. If anyone's into galactic stuff or aliens or anything like that, I talk about that.
Well, I talk about the fake alien invasion. It's got things to do with
The fake alien invasion? I'll talk about that. What about the one that comes before that? What's coming before that?
What, the Blue Ring Project?
I don't know what you're doing.
The one before that is China, Taiwan. Right. We're going to have some fun tonight. Anyone freaked out already?
No.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. We were there last week.
Discrimination.
Discrimination of who?
Us.
Which us? The living men and women.
Conspiracy theorists.
Did you leave your tin hat at the door? People call me a conspiracy theorist. I say, if you're going to get it right, I'm a conspiracy realist. Okay? It just shows you how uninformed you are if you have to call me that. Right. Sorry, what was it again? Discrimination. When we get to that, I'm going to ask you for more specific details so I can absolutely address everything.
Crown land.
Crown land. Crown land. What's Crown land?
God's land owned by the Pope.
God's land.
I think we should cover a bill that's been passed demonising misinformation and
Well, I'm happy to talk about it, but no bills or legislations apply to me. So if you want it to apply to you, then I'll show you what will happen.
yeah, tell us how to get out of it.
Oh, I think that's a good topic for tonight. How do we get out of it?
I've got a topic.
A topic. Oh, cool. So, what's on this piece of paper? Signatures. Why did you sign your piece of paper? Do you just do whatever anybody tells you to do? Yeah. There was 1, 2, 3, 5 of you asked why. Out of all of you, 5 of you asked, why do you want me to say? And what was the answer you got?
Just sign it.
You just sign it, or Alex will tell you later. So you just signed it. Do we start to see what the problem might be? We're just complying because somebody asked us to do it. Well, it's worse if somebody threatens us.
Somebody important.
Some people.
No, somebody important asked.
Somebody important asked. Well, I'm glad you validated all the ladies. Some people didn't sign. Who didn't sign it at all? Oh, well done, people. Why didn't you sign it?
Because I didn't know what I was signing.
Brilliant. The rest of you? There's a lesson in that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because on the back of this piece of paper it says you all owe me $100. I just did that as an exercise to lead us into where we're going. How easy are we misled? Alrighty, how many of you are new to this? Well, they call it common law stuff. I don't like the term common law because that's the law built on the commons back in 1500s. I operate under universal principles of consciousness. But how many are you new to this? None of you. Couple of you. Everybody's too scared to do anything now because I think there's a trend. Okay. I know that those of you who are here on Thursday night, you've got a pretty good handle on where we're going with this now. How many of you would consider yourself all over this like Answer the Picnic? 1 or 2 of you? All right. So I'm going to just ask a few simple questions which will help me know where you're at. How many of you have heard of the Unum Sanctum? Yep, just put your hand up if you heard of it. Those of you on here on Thursday night, sure have. You remember it? Okay. The rest of you haven't heard of it. How many of you have rebutted it? What's that? I only just know what it is. If you, come on, it's not that hard to put a hand up so I can see. 2. Those who have rebutted it, have you rebutted it in writing? Served on the relevant people. Brilliant. Guess what the Unum Sanctum is? Who's heard of the Magna Carta? Okay, we've all heard the Magna Carta. Yep. We've all heard that the Magna Carta is the key to our salvation, our freedom, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Yeah. No. Magna Carta is not worth the paper it's written on. Because it was constructed with basically a knife to King John's throat, saying, if you don't sign this, we're going to kill you. So in a contract, that voids a contract. So the Magna Carta has no standing. Don't get trapped into thinking that. The Unum Sanctum was introduced by Pope Boniface VIII, and it's called a papal bull. And the papal bull said this: I claim every soul on the planet for the Catholic Church. Every soul on the planet for the Catholic Church. How many of you have their soul owned by the Catholic Church? Every single one of you except those who've rebutted the Unum Sanctum. You happy with the Catholic Church owning your soul? So how do we get out of it? We have to rebut it. Now their whole system is a system of paper. Everything happens on paper. It's a world of fiction. Paper, fiction. You, as a living man or woman, do not exist in their system. If you go into a court and you stand up and you say, I'm a living man, such and such, they'll treat you like you are not there, because you're not. Because they can only deal with fictions. So how do we get into their system to get out of their system? Because they treat us like we're in their system, correct? Well, we need to put a piece of paper in there that tells the difference between your capital lettered name and who you really are. And we do that with an affidavit. An affidavit. The affidavit is the most powerful document in their system. Their system is a system of commerce and trade. Everything. It's trade, commerce, nothing to do with living men, women. So you need to put a document in their system that's related to that. And the affidavit in their system is the most powerful because you make a series of statements, you present it to someone and you say to them, you challenge it with an affidavit, with proof, and everything that's left over becomes the contract in law between you and me. You create a contract of trade and commerce. Now, if they don't respond, what have they done? They've agreed to everything in your contract.
Have they ever responded?
I got a response. I was the first one to send out the one we do. I got a response from the solicitor's office of the Attorney General. 3 lines. We got the document. We don't acknowledge your document. We consider your documents have no legal standing. Imagine the Attorney General of the state saying that an affidavit has no legal standing. What does that do to their whole system? Throws it out the window. And I get into why they say that. But here's the point. In the affidavit it says, you must respond with an affidavit signed at the risk of perjury. No other response is acceptable because it's considered a non-response. So their response was a non-response. Out of the thousands of these affidavits that have been done and served, no one has responded. Because they can't. It's airtight. But the affidavit is not from the position of the living man or the living woman. What did the Vatican claim? The soul. So your affidavit is from your soul saying, excuse me, but, you know, not going to happen.
Any lunatic can say, I own you, and that doesn't make them own you. And that paper is probably right on
Absolutely.
something or other.
Thank you. And thank you for calling me a lunatic. I love that. Because I am. I'm crazy. And I'm proud to be crazy. So how do they do? We've got to get this affidavit done. So they're creating a fraud. So let's explain how the fraud happens. You've all heard about the birth certificate? How many of you, that the birth certificate is a fraudulent document? It's a legal document, it's not lawful? No, it's absolutely, totally legal and lawful. Is that a surprise? Because we've been told that that's where all the fraud starts, with the birth certificate. But it's not. They do everything legally. And I'm going to explain to you how the fraud happens. All right. And excuse my drawing, but it's terrible. When you're in the womb... No, I'm not having a child. Everyone thinks I'm not sure. It's just me being a great actor. I'm great. 2? Thanks, Bernie. Twins. You've got the bub, there's an umbilical cord, and there's the placenta. All right? Umbilical cord and bub. It's all the same DNA. Half the DNA comes from dad, half the DNA comes from mum, into the egg, and the whole lot develops from that. Placenta, umbilical cord, baby. Outside that is just the mum's DNA. So this is one product, one entity. And while it's in the womb, the bub derives everything from the placenta, and it's called the beneficiary. Okay? The bub gets everything. When bub is born, and I'm writing in dog Latin. Ignore my writing in dog Latin. That should be B-O-R-N. Okay? B-O-R-N. When bub is born, what happens? Ladies will remember. Men were probably passed out on the floor. Severance. First thing is the umbilical cord is cut, and that's called severance. Now, when you sever a property, you automatically create a trust. A trust is automatically created when you sever a property. Okay? Because somebody has to own this bit, somebody has to own this bit. What's the next thing, or the first thing that happens to bub after the umbilical cord's cut?
The soul.
It's a smell on the eyes.
Yeah?
Gets away.
Mine didn't, because they weren't severed, but that's another story. Gets weighed. Bub gets weighed.
Working gold.
Because it's worth its weight in gold. And in fact, if you ask any mother when bub's born, they'll tell you it's much more valuable than that. But it's worth its weight in gold. What else happens to it?
The soul.
They take a soul print. S-O-L-E, a print of the soul. It's clever, they play with words. It's called misnomers, and there are lots of misnomers as we go through this that you'll go, oh, you'll see where the game starts. So bub's born, they weigh it, they take a soul print, they hand it to mum, and what does mum say? Oh, this is my beautiful baby,
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. Thank you. Someone who's been here before. Mary Jane. She names it. And here's why she names it. In the Bible, and I'm not saying the Bible is correct or incorrect, I'm just saying this is what it says. Adam got dominion over all living creatures by doing what? By naming them. So by naming Mary Jane, Mary Jane's mother gets ownership and control over her. That can't be changed until such time as Mary Jane gives that away. All clear so far? Beautiful. Midwife then says to the mother, oh, you're not done yet, love. You've got to... Oh, someone said it. They whispered. Birth the placenta.
What?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to leave it that way this time. Notice the difference? Born, birth. A baby is born, a placenta is birthed. So the placenta's birthed. What do they do with it? They weigh it. Why do they weigh it? Because it's worth in weight in gold. It's worth its weight in gold. In 99% of the cases, what does the mother do to the placenta? She abandons it. She doesn't want it. She abandons it. Guess what happens next? The state comes along and they salvage it under salvage laws. Maritime jurisdiction. They salvage it, and then what do? Because now they own it, because they've salvaged it, it's been abandoned, they salvage it, what do they do to it? Well, before they do that, what do they do to it? Name it. They name it. They've weighed it because it's worth its weight in gold, and they name it, Mary Jane Smith. They add a surname. A surname, ancient Latin, name sur on. A name put on. The state adds a surname so they control it. You, as a living woman, living man, do not have a surname. If you use it, you're committing fraud. Every time you sign a document with a surname, every time you fill in the surname, you are committing fraud. You've got to stop using your surname because it's not yours. Now, when this placenta is born and they weigh it, it weighs around about the same as the baby. The placenta is quite heavy. Let's say it was a big babe, and let's say it was a 10-pound babe. How many ounces is that? 16 ounces in a pound times 10 is 160 ounces. What's the price of gold at the moment?
3,000.
It's about $3,000 an ounce. So this placenta is worth 160 times 3,000, which from my terrible maths works out around about $4.8 million. Is that right, maths? Any maths teachers in the room? 4.8 million?
It's about 3,000 kilos.
Oh, not that much. I'm gonna cut it down. 3 million. The placenta's worth $3 million. Now, if you create a business and you've got a product and you want your product to improve in its value, what market do you take it to? The stock market. Now, I just happen to have a copy of a birth certificate. Here. How many of you got a copy of a birth certificate? Yeah. How many pages has it got? How many pages has it got? How many did you get? Because you only asked for the birth certificate. You didn't ask for the history certificate that goes with the birth certificate. So they only give you this. Why do they only give you this?
Because they probably own one on the back.
Oh, because they don't want you to know about this one on the back. So, here we've got at the top, birth certificate in capital letters. That's actually called dog Latin. It's not English. You can't read it. And it makes a document criminal. It's a criminal document. They're telling you that. Certificate is a claim of ownership. So this birth certificate relates to who?
Your placenta.
Is it a born certificate?
No.
It's a birth certificate. Now, does everybody know in their legislation, if you look up definition of birth, it says birth includes stillbirth. Now, before we knew all of this stuff, this is what we thought it meant. Well, a birth includes every baby that's born and all the poor babies that are stillborn. People, we think that? Yeah. But there's a little maximum. How many people don't know what a maximum of law is? Yeah, a maximum law is a foundational aspect of law that all law is built on. It's unchallengeable, exactly what it is, right? A maximum. There's a maximum that says, inclusio, I'm writing it in English so you can spell it. Inclusio unius est alterius exclusio. Which basically means this. Everything that is included is after the word included, and everything else is excluded. So basically what birth includes stillbirth means is birth only includes stillbirth. See the trick? Is the placenta breathing? It's got a pulse? So the placenta is dead, stillborn, stillbirth. It's really simple, isn't it? But it's really clever. They're so clever. But we know what's going on. So a birth certificate belongs to who?
Mary Jane Smith.
The placenta. It's a record of the birth of your placenta. And who owns it? The state owns it.
So we're not avoided.
It's absolutely legal because the mother abandoned the placenta. The state salvaged it, they named it, and they've created a certificate for it. Because they're going to trade this, because it's worth $3 million. And they're going to put it on the stock market. Now, in here, it's got all this information in square boxes. If something's in a square box, it's called the four corners rule. And what the four corners rule means is this. Everything that is inside those four corners is not part of the document. So everything that's in here, everything's in here, everything, all of this is not part of the document.
So it's a blank page.
In effect, yeah. And the reason they do that is because all of their fraud is committed in these boxes. So you can't say to them, oh, this is a fraudulent document, because they'll say, no, 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 all the stuff that's in there is not part of the page.
Okay. Yeah.
How clever are they? Just by putting it in a box. They don't tell us that.
So why do we have to have them?
Sorry?
So why do we have to have them?
Why do we have to have a birth certificate? My daughter hasn't got one. Because I didn't put her into that system. You get sucked in real bad. Because no one tells you the truth. Because they want to control you. They want to make money out of you. Now, can you see what's in the top? What's that in the top of that box?
One child.
One. So it's numbered and it says child. But their language isn't English. Their language is Latin. And CH in Latin is pronounced K. What's the word now? Killed. They're telling you this is all dead. Everything on here is dead. And they use all of the surnames everywhere. Surname of the placenta. Surname of the mother placenta contract. Surname of the father placenta contract. So do we like the fraud that they're perpetuating here? It's not a fraud. It's absolutely legal. But you guys didn't ask for the other side, which is we read this as the history certificate. What do you notice at the bottom? How many? 3 barcodes. And watch how I spell this. I don't spell it B-A-R. I spell it B-A-R. Capitals. Why is there 3 barcodes on this? Well, when they want to trade the placenta's value, they have to trade it in 3 markets. There's the market of the land, there's the market of the air, and there's the market of the water. Okay, land is for property, air is for trust accounts, ecclesiastical things, water is admiralty law. But look at the first letter of each of these words. L-A-W, law. See, we're living men, we're living when. What do we operate under? We operate under L-O-R-E.
Which means?
The spoken story.
Does it stand for something? L-O-R-E? Besides
The spoken story. That's how we communicate, through language. But they don't communicate through language because they're a fiction. They communicate through paper, written word. Sounds the same, totally different meaning. Law, law.
The First Nations say something like land, original, respect, elders, something like that.
Yeah, well, they can use it as an anagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
How long has this been going on for? When did this get instituted?
Oh, the Romans started this back around about 200, about 200 AD. And they put it in bit by bit by bit. The Romans said this. They were conquering everyone. And they said, we will offer you all of these privileges if you become a Roman citizen. You can have this, you can have that, you can have this. You can have everything if you declare yourself a Roman citizen. All you have to do is give up your rights. Oh, did we not tell you that bit? No, we didn't tell you that.
Well, back in the time of the Apostle Paul, you had to be born Italian to be a Roman citizen. You had to be born into the Roman.
They start somewhere. Then they offer a citizenship.
And then people had to buy a birth certificate if they were wealthy.
You had to get a citizenship. Everything's in the water jurisdiction. When you know what the fraud is, you'll find evidence of it everywhere. So what are these three numbers? Well, there's 3 trust accounts. And these 3 numbers, which are barcodes, see, they think we're so dumb. Well, look, obviously they're a barcode because they've got bars in them, right? It's pretty simple. When you scan 2 litres of milk, you scan the barcode because it's a product that can be sold, bought and sold. So what are these barcodes doing on the placenta's ownership certificate?
They're your identifying code for your placenta.
So it can be traded. So these are the 3 barcodes of that placenta in those 3 dominions. So if you hand this in to a court, so this is the fiction, da 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 da, they're going to laugh at you. Because you're saying this is evidence of me being born. They're not going to tell you you're an idiot and it's the placenta. They're not going to tell you that. They're just going to go, well, you're crazy, you have no rights, whatever. But if you present this page, saying here's the evidence of the 3 trusts of the placenta and the barcodes, and you also give this. If you go to something like treasurydirect.org and you punch those 3 numbers into, these are bond certificates. So for one of these bond numbers, you can get a $25 bond, a $50 bond, a $100 bond, $200 bonds, $500 bonds, $1,000 bonds and $10,000 bonds. You can purchase that from your $3 million. Now, this is in my case, and you can see I've got 3 pages loads of these, and there's more. But in just one of these, it gives the issue price. Like a stock market, this is what it started at. And it says, issue price, $7,500. So at the 10,000 bond mark, I'm buying a $10,000 bond for $7,500. Now the next column says interest. So the interest on my $7,500 bond is $73,044, making a total of $80,000. That's just for one bond. It's 3 pages. I'll hand it round, you can all have a look at it. So when I hand that into the court, along with that, I'm exposing the fraud. Because what I'm saying to the court is, that capital lettered name is not me. It's a trust account of my placenta, and you know that, and now you know that I know that. So let's not play any games more. We're talking about my placenta. I, the living man, am the beneficiary of that trust account. All of these trust accounts, I'm the beneficiary because I always have been the beneficiary. so they say you're the beneficiary. Now, there are lots of people out there who think that all the money in these accounts, and they call it a Setica V trust, people think there's only one. Se Ke V. It's V-I-N. I didn't tell you what bar meant. British Accreditation Registry. Owned by the Crown Corporation in London. And guess who the Crown Corporation's owned by? The Vatican. Because King John, way back when, he was going to be kicked out of the cult religion. And he said, please, 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 I don't want to go to hell. Please let me back in. And the Pope said, yep, we'll let you back in on condition that you pay all of the fees. And if you don't pay the fees, the Crown of England goes to the Vatican forever. All its heirs, all its successions, the Crown of England goes to the Vatican. Well, King John didn't pay the bill. He broke the contract. So who owns the Crown of England? The Vatican. So when Charles recently got crowned, how many of you took notice that he was crowned with a St. Edward's crown? Which is the Catholic crown. Because he's Catholic. When he walked out of the chapel, suddenly he had the imperial crown on. They did a switcheroo to distort the people. If you look at any pictures of Charles and William and all these people when they're doing ceremony, they wear this big flowing cloak with a big star on it, floppy hat with the ostrich feather. It's called the Order of the Garter. It's the highest order of which church? Catholic Church. You've been lied to about who's in control of all of this stuff. All roads lead to Rome, to the Vatican. So this Setica V trust, how do we deal with it? Are we all happy with the fact that the birth certificate is totally legal and lawful? It's just not you? Cool. It's what they do next. I haven't got a cloth. Can someone get me a cloth so I can...
Excuse me, tell me again, you've got the DAR,
British Accreditation Registry.
accreditation registry.
And it's a registry of every product that can be bought and sold. That's why you have a barcode. Now, if you ever get a document from them, thank you. If you ever get a document from them, the first thing to do, scan it. Let's say it's a speeding fine or whatever it is. Scan it, keep the original, get your black pen, and cross out the barcode so it can't be read. Then you circle it in red pen, not understood. And there's lots of things you can do on these documents to expose this fraud. What I'm doing, folks, is I'm helping you understand the fraud. Now I'm going into how do you deal with it.
Why are we crossing out the barcode? Sorry, so that they can't read it. Why are we crossing out the barcode?
Because if you don't cross it out, you've acknowledged it. Remember, he who does not deny, accepts. So everything that's on their page that is criminal, you circle it in a red pen, which I haven't got. For instance, I'm just going to use this word, notice. They'll have something there. No. Circle that. Dog Latin equals criminal and counterfeit. And then over here you write, I do not understand this instrument.
What makes all caps dog Latin? Is that an accent or where does that come from?
It's to do with writings. We write in English, you and I speak in English. English is in lowercase. English is in lower case.
Even if it is capitalised first.
Yeah, because nouns can be capitalised. Okay. If I write this in Latin, it would be this. English hyphen is hyphen in hyphen lower hyphen case. That's Latin. If I take all of these spaces out, it might read as English, but it's not. It's called dog Latin. It's a gliss. It's a glyph, fossil. American Sign Language. And what it means is this. English full stop, is full stop, in full stop, lower full stop, case full stop. That doesn't make any sense. So anything that's in capital letter is criminal, counterfeit, so you tell them. So you do this all over the document, circle it, and you send it back to them saying, I'm sorry, I only understand documents in English and English only. You're not allowed to have two languages on one instrument. The other thing is italics. Okay, italics. Italics is cursive. Whenever they put that on a document, they are cursing you. Italics is a cursive. I do not consent to being cursed. We're right. It's like going back to school. Red pen all over it.
So, Alex, does this mean we open the envelope? Don't just write something on the envelope, we've got to get the document out.
Okay. You have choices before we even get to the stage of the envelope. The envelope is addressed to who?
Fiction.
The fiction, to the placenta. So you can write on it, addressee is deceased. True?
Yes.
Addressee is not recognised. Return to sender. You may even want to put down try, care of, Registrar General, and you put their address in, the Registrar General. Why the Registrar General? Because the Registrar General is the trustee of the trust accounts. It's all to do with him. Nothing to do with you. If you open these, you must create a document. And the document is from the executor of the fiction, because you're the executor of the trust accounts for your placenta, because you're the beneficiary, sole beneficiary. You as the executor grant the living woman or living man permission to open mail addressed to the placenta's trust account, okay, without any possible legal attachment to it. Now you can open that mail lawfully, legally.
So you do that document, what, when and to whom?
It's for you. You can do it as soon as you want.
Oh, so you can send it to yourself?
You send it to yourself. You're keeping it there and it's signed. So you now have authority from the executor. Just happens to be you. So you're writing permission to yourself because your executor is a position, is a fictional position. So that fictional position is giving permission to the living woman to open it. So you'll sign it, one as the executor, and then you'll initial it as the person who's opening, the living man or woman who's opening. Okay? So that gives you permission if you accidentally open it. If you don't open it, send it back. Addressee is not deceased. Some people write no consent, no contract. That's gilding the lily. You can put it on there. But as soon as you write this, addressee is deceased, it'll go back to them. They'll send you a reminder notice. You don't open it, just deceased. They'll send you another one. You send it back. And they can't send you anymore. They can only send you 3. Because under their rules, everything happens at 3s.
And then what happens to it?
Disappears.
So what
Brother
happens
says he knows the final notice.
Whose licence?
their license or single?
See, the sender's licence, they can cancel it, because who owns it? They do. What happens when they take the money out of your bank? Sorry? Whose bank account is it? The centre's. See how extensive the fraud is? You got a job?
Yeah.
Who gets paid?
Sorry?
Who gets paid? The placenta. Does that swing with you? Placenta's owned by the government. That's why they take tax out of it, because they can. Now I'm going to give you some ways that you can start to flip it on them. Banks. Who owns a house? Here. Guess what? Keep your hand up so I can see. None of you own your house. Whose name is it in? The placenta. They've sold it to the placenta. Ooh. Does it go with everything? Everything that's in the name. If it has a surname, doesn't matter if it's lowercase. There's this thing called Capita Dominius Maximus. And it says this. There's 3 stages. Now here we had 3 trusts. There's 3 stages where they rip more and more of the rights away. One is when they just capitalise the surname. The third one is when they capitalise all 3 names. They take your rights away a little bit at a time.
What's that called? Capita Dominicus what?
I can never remember. Capita Dominius Maximus.
Dominius. Right, yeah, Maximus.
If I'm not exactly correct, you'll find it anyway. It's pretty close to it. Capita Dominius Maximus. So, there's so many different ways that you can approach this. It depends on how much fun you want to have. If you get everything they give you is an offer. Speeding fine, you have to pay such and such. Council rate, you have to pay such and such. No, it's an offer of contract. So you can send back to them and say, oh, thank you for this. Please see my attached notice of conditional acceptance. In which, if you provide me all of these documents with all of the proof of who you are and of your authority, I will consider your offer. However, if you cannot provide these documents within 28 days, it will be taken that they don't exist, that you have no claim, and any further attempts at claim are an attempt at extortion. Here is my fee for extortion. $1 million. So they've got a choice. They can send another fictitious claim, and if they do that, they're admitting the fraud, they're admitting extortion, and then you send them an invoice for $1 million.
Yeah, just should you tell people they need to have the affidavit first?
Absolutely.
Start playing this game?
Absolutely. But there's a lot of this stuff you can do anyway. But if you were going to walk across a tightrope, what's the first thing you'd put in place?
Safety.
A safety net. If you were going to swim through shark-infested waters, what's the first thing you'd make sure you're in? A shark-proof cage.
I was going to say a mesh suit.
A mesh suit would be good. You might want to wear a mesh suit and go in a cage. And if it was me, I wouldn't even be getting in the water. I think that the ocean was made for fish, and
it's also maritime law, so stay.
Well, it's maritime law. All right. So
My toll account has been suspended.
your what?
Toll account has been suspended.
Sorry, whose toll account? See how it, remember how you all signed the paper before? Okay. Oh, you know, they're going to suspend my licence. Sorry, whose licence? Oh, my toll account. Sorry, whose toll licence? Sorry, whose house? It's like... All right. How many of you are parents?
How many got?
Parents. You are renting your kids back from the state. The state owns your kids. This is why they can step in under DHS and take them away and do all of this, because you've called yourself a parent. If you call yourself a parent, you're under their system. What am I? I'm not a parent. I'm a biological creator. Because whoever creates owns. Remember Mum? She named it. She's a biological creator. Whoever creates owns. If you use their name, if you call them children, these are my biological creations. Don't fall into their terminology, use ours. But they've conditioned us. And we've got to snap out of it, not use the terminologies, not be sucked into the terminologies anymore. It's a little bit of retraining your brain. In fact, the hardest thing that you're going to find with all of this is shifting your perspective. To see it as a game and to say, oh, I want to play the game, but I want to play it my way, and I know the way to use the rules against you now. Yeah?
How is the biological creator male fit into this, giving his surname through many generations?
No, it's not his surname.
But it's always the male's name, surname, that is put on the certificate.
It's when it's put on the document, it's a surname. But if I walk into the village and I say, I want to speak to Mary Jane, and they say, which Mary Jane do you want? The Mary Jane of the family Smith, the Mary Jane Jones, the way we write our name changes from this moment on. Every document is written, and whenever you say I, you always put this afterwards. I, the living woman, single quote mark or expression mark, Mary Jane, end quote, comma, next line, of the family, tribe, house, clan, and then in quote marks, lowercase Smith, quote marks. Every time you write your name on any document, without exception, you might put just family. You might put clan. You get to choose. But your name stops here. The rest is just a qualification. It means nothing. What are these called? These are called your given names, because they were given to you by your mother or your father at the time you were born. It relates to your physical body. Now, it doesn't matter what you call yourself now. In the terms of your affidavit is not for our system. It's for their system. It's the spanner we throw in their works, and they don't like it. You might call yourself Maria. That's okay. But in their system, we must go by the name you were given when you were born. Now, ladies, what happens when you get married? You change your name. Why? Oh, well, but why do you change your name? You don't have to.
Well, that's what we told you have to do. Just carry
Okay, so let's talk about what happens here. We're going to jump around a little bit
Just go
because
back
there's
one
lots
sec. Mary Jane. Yeah. Bit more. Yeah. One more. Mary Jane is your given name.
given
But that's
name.
not your soul name. So isn't
No.
that supposed to be your soul name?
Oh, but this is what I'm doing to their system. But remember, we've made our affidavit from our soul. You get to choose your soul name. People say, I don't know, what should I call myself? Should I call myself Mary? No. What about you call yourself Buttercup Princess as your soul name? Anything you want. You can pick a goddess name or a god name.
Lysian pineapple.
Lysian pineapple, like that one. Because what's that doing? It's making a clear distinction between your soul, the living shell that you're in, and the fiction created by the state. And we've put that into their system. And they haven't rebutted it. That's
How do we put
the
it in
law.
their system? How do we put it into our affidavit? In what way?
This is in your affidavit, and we've got templates that you can do this. All you have to do is highlight the bits that are in red, replace it with your details, put find, replace all, click, bang, it does it all for you.
So for the family name for women, is it your what's called your maiden name or your acquired married name?
Whatever
On the
you
affidavit.
want.
No, on the affidavit.
On the affidavit, whatever you want. because you are born of the family Smith and of the family Jones, but you're actually born of the woman. So you might want to choose your mother's maiden name for this, to keep the lineage going. You can put your father's in if you wish, or you can put together
You married
a
now?
hybridised form. Wouldn't put my married name in. You weren't married when you got born, were you? Okay? Your father's family name, your mother's married name, a combination of them, either way around, or get this one, or any name you want. You can say, I'm going to start a whole new lineage. I'm going to call myself of the family Brown, because I am the beginning of the Brown family. And here's why. How many of you heard of the term sovereign? How many have not heard of sovereign? It's probably a better question. Have you heard of the word sovereign? Okay, so what's the difference between... So my mum keeps calling me during these sessions. Mum, I'll call back. A sovereign is someone who is a king or queen of a group of people. Yeah? Sovereign being. When you're a sovereign, you are a king or a queen in your own right. I'm a sovereign being. I'm a galactic entity. I am visiting this planet and I have diplomatic immunity. How do you know I have diplomatic immunity? Because it's in my affidavit and they didn't challenge it.
Is that French?
So it's actually Norwegian, I think, from original origins. I'm sure don't take me as correct on that. You can look it up. Okay?
It is super. Isn't sovereign then another misnomer? Because it means above grain. It's uber. Sovereign is a translation.
That's why it's king or a queen above
They're
someone
above
else.
grain, but they reign from above.
Yes.
That's actually two distinct things. It doesn't give them a right to reign over anyone.
It doesn't.
Because no one's going to... I know what their rights are. Same as yours.
Absolutely.
So that's a misnomer.
Well, no. It's a fact that they are a sovereign because others have chosen to be under them as subjects or
Without
citizens.
knowing, yes.
Well,
Without
you ask anybody in England, they'll tell you they're a subject of Queen. It's not that they don't know, it's they don't know. Yeah. So you want to be sovereign, a sovereign being. So you can choose whatever you want here, because you might decide, I'm starting a whole new lineage. You get to choose, and you get to choose your soul name. Because remember, this is not for us. Okay? I don't hand you guys any of this when I shake your hand. I'm Alex. That's all you need. People say to me, what's your name? I say, I haven't got one. They go, what do you mean you haven't got one? I said, I haven't got one. If I get in the witness box, they ask me to take an affirmation. Then they ask, state your full name. I say, I haven't got one. And they say, well, what do you call yourself? And I say, I am reliably informed from the woman to whom I was apparently born, that when I was born, I was given the appellation Trevor John. Appellation. What's that word? When you name something, you claim dominion of it. But an appellation is that by which you are called or known. Called or known. There's no ownership in that. Okay? An appellation, or that by which I am called. That by which I am known. Or I could get up and I could say, I am going to give testimony from my position as Alex, i.e. from my soul. You've got all these choices to play with their system. And here's the good thing about it. Then you shut up and you look at the prosecutor and you look at the judge and then you go on. Because in that moment, you've given both of them a chance to challenge that. And they haven't challenged it. So then later on, when they say, oh, Mr. Smith, say, excuse me, you've just committed personage. I told you who I am. You're to respect me and refer to me by that which I am in the witness box, not to commit personage and try to turn me into the fiction. Now you've got grounds to have the whole thing thrown out. Especially if the judge does it. It's all these little tricks. It's great fun. All right. Where were we going with all of that? I have no idea. So we'll just go on to the next bits and pieces. What other bits and pieces have we got? They're all down here. Landowner. We all know it. You don't own land. So how do you get a claim back on your land? You need to...
He who creates owns.
Yes, so who owns the land?
Created, so who owns?
Well, who created the land?
The creator.
Yeah.
So he owns. And
Yeah.
who's got a purchase certificate?
Well, no one's got a bill of sale, have they? So what they have is a claim of ownership or a title. Ian Botham's over here. Most of you might know Ian Botham. If you don't, he's a famous cricketer. He got a title, Sir Ian Botham. He got that because he became subservient to the Queen. But he and the title are totally separate. The title is not Ian Botham, it's a fiction. So a title of a property is a fiction, it's not the land. And if you look at the title, not only has it been sold to the fiction, but has a little thing on it called Lot 25, then it gives the address. Yeah? What does lot mean? Location. It's an anagram. It's dog Latin. Location of title. It's the geographical coordinates on a map. And their world is the two-dimensional world of paper. You're being sold a lie on about 3 different levels. So how are we going to get some sort of control back? Now, all of this is going to change. Now, I told the group on Thursday night, the king of the First Nations tribes has emerged. He's uniting all of the First Nations tribes, and they are going to take the land back from the corporate invaders. Okay? How many of you think I'm standing on Australia? Does anyone here not know that Australia is Norfolk Island, Cocos Islands, Keeling Islands? Anyone go, well, if you're not sure, ask me now because I'll explain it. Brilliant, thank you for doing that. If you go into the Interpretations Act, the definition of Australia says includes Norfolk Island, Cocos Islands, Keeling Islands and Christmas Island. Do you remember that maxim we did earlier?
Everything after include.
And here's why. When they landed on this land, it was occupied. So they could not claim it. So they went to the nearest island that was not occupied and they called it Australia. They then from there offer administration of our land through their corporate entity, Australian government.
Which island did they go to?
Norfolk Island
They were occupied.
wasn't occupied, no one living on it, so they claimed it. And before that, who knows where New South Wales is?
Right here.
Where?
Right here.
Lord,
You sure?
Christmas Island.
Do you think I might be asking a trick question?
yeah.
You can take this back. It's Lord Howe Island is where New South Wales is. Because when they landed here, they couldn't claim and make New South Wales. They landed on Lord Howe Island and they set up all of their stuff there. They claimed it. You've been told a lot of lies.
Haven't they got away with this story of coming to Australia and inhabiting it when it was already inhabited?
Who writes the history after a war? The victors. And the victors don't tell you the truth. Everything that you get is written by elites. Everyone was not educated, only the elites were educated. So they tell the story they want you to believe. And then they put all of that story into schools and they teach that to the kids.
After the fact.
After the fact. Lie upon lie upon lie. How do you know when a politician's lying? How do you know when a politician's lying?
The mouth.
Their mouth's moving.
They always lie.
All All right, so how are you going to get some control over this? A bill of sale. You, as the executor of the placenta, sell the title, sell the property to the living woman of the name Mary Jane for $1 silver. Has anyone not seen a silver dollar before?
No.
I'll pass it around. I've passed this around to so many groups before and it's always come back. And in one occasion, 2 came back. Because somebody had one on it. Both people had. Sorry?
Is that Australian or American?
Has he got the key?
It says on here, Australian kangaroo. I can't quite read it. But it's got a picture of Liz on the back. But this is a silver dollar. So it's currency on for us. Because it's silver. The only currency that is legitimate. No. It's got nothing to do with what's printed on it. If you go into the Currencies Act, which is theirs, it tells you currency is gold or silver. But here's the thing. Gold or silver cannot just be the metal, it can be the colour. A gold coin is currency. Have I got one? No, I've got a silver one. It's silver coloured, that's currency. It's not made of silver. Okay? That's worth, I think today it's worth about $42.
So it's not pure silver.
Oh yeah, it's 99.99% silver.
So where'd you get it from?
I bought it!
Yeah, but where?
You can get them from bullion companies. Bullion companies. And the great thing about them is you're never short on cash. But you love it when you go into a shop and you go to pay for something with one of these and they go, "What's that?" I said, "It's currency." They said, "What do you mean?" So now you've got to go and look up a computer to find out what the value of it is and then you give me the change. But I use it to educate people.
Do they take it?
I don't give it to them. I use it to educate them.
It multiplies. It multiplies.
And a what?
Multiplies.
It multiplies. Yeah, it comes back. There's 2 of them come back. All right. So you do a bill of sale. It's in trade and commerce, the bill of sale. Now here's the great thing about it. You're going to sell the title to your house, i.e. the property, for $1 silver. That's outside of their system. So when it comes to stamp duty, who pays the stamp duty? Living woman doesn't pay stamp duty.
The afterbirth does.
The afterbirth, the placenta pays that. And who owns that? The government does. So you refer them back. You send it on.
Do we send them an invoice for stamp duty?
No, you don't send them an invoice.
Can you claim the stamp duty back?
Let's get into this. Do we want to delve into how we can really stick it to them?
Yep. Yeah.
Who's paid for a house, paid off a loan? Okay. Would you like to get all of that money back times 4 and still own the property? What you do is you write a letter to the bank saying, "Can you please send me copies of..." Now you've got to get your affidavit in place to do this, or we've got nothing to fall back on because you want to refer to it.
Who do we send the affidavit
You'll send it to Chief of the Courts, Chief of the Police, Government, all the people who are potentially screwing you over the names or are controlling you. There's a list. When you do the template, we've got a list.
to? So you've got a template somewhere where I can actually do this? Because at the moment I don't see any real advantage in you coming with that, but it's all there.
Well,
If we can't put it in the
We can't put it in the
but
budget.
here's the thing. I have to explain the fraud to you. So you get the fraud, so I can
we
then
know
explain how.
we all know.
Yeah, no, but some people didn't. Okay, so the first step, explain the fraud. Now I'm into here's the action you take. Alrighty? So you send a document to the bank requesting all of the documents to do with mortgage number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the mortgage number is, in the name of the living man, Jack Robert. You ask them for that. The bank's now got 2 options. They either say back to you, we have no mortgage documents on our files in the name of the living man, Jack Robert. Or they send you a copy of the documents. But when they send you the documents, all of the documents are in the name of the fiction, John Robert Smith, in the name of the placenta. Either way, you've just exposed the fraud. So you come back to the bank and you say, oh, I think there's been a fraud committed. I think there's been no full disclosure when I was making this loan. You didn't tell me that I was doing it, so the whole contract is fraudulent. It's voided. And they knew it, and they now have to pay not only every cent, but all the interest times 4. And they are not going to get out of it. They're going to try and bluff you, bully you, and you hold your ground. The matter's going to go to court, and this is what will happen. The judge is going to stand the matter aside. He's going to ring up the lawyers, and he's going to say, you need to pay them. The bank needs to pay them because I am not going to be the one who brings the whole system down by ruling on this, because I have to. And they settle out of court. And it does work. I know people who've done this.
Alex, we better get this out there in society and see how smart things are.
People have already done this. The bank has settled, and they paid them. They paid them about half of what you were asking for. So let's say you were asking for 4 times what you put into it, might be $4 million. The bank will settle for $2 million. Out of bank.
properties.
And you can do this for anything. If you go to your bank, who's got a mortgage at the moment? Okay? You can do this today. You can go into the bank and you can say, I have currently hit financial trouble. Great word, this word. And I am currently impecunious. Okay? Meaning I do not have any money at the moment. However, I am happy to pay you $5 a month until such time as my financial circumstances change or the matter is resolved. Very open-ended there. The matter is resolved, meaning I'm going to sue your ass off until you give in. And here's where the key is. What will the bank do?
Toss you out. Toss you out and say you're crazy.
Well, they can do that if they like.
They'll cancel all your credit ratings.
We'll do this. We'll do... You know what? You say to them, are you not accepting my $5 a month?
Yeah.
Please put that in writing that you've refused my offer of payment. Because if you refuse offer of payment, the entire debt is wiped. They must accept that term and condition or they wipe the whole debt. How much power does that give you? Especially when you know, I've got you guys for fraud. Don't play with me. I've got you by the left and right curly one. And I'm going to play like this.
I'm going to use bricks.
Bricks. When you know that you have the power, the game changes.
So that all stems from the fact that you put an affidavit into whoever.
You don't have to have the affidavit. You can do this anyway. But theirs is a world of paper. And all you have to do is this document's been served on the court that's hearing the matter. And they haven't challenged it. You can serve it on the bank if you want as well. But the one who's going to make the decision is the court. And they've already consented to your affidavit.
What about if you've had many mortgages over the time and paid them off and you don't have the paperwork?
Then you're going to get very rich. Because you're asking the bank for the paperwork. Not you, the bank. And they have to keep it as a record. And if they can't provide it, it will be taken that the contract was fraudulent from the beginning.
You can do that with bank accounts.
Sorry?
You can do it with bank accounts.
Yeah, you can do it with bank accounts because they created a fraudulent account. You thought that you were creating an account for you.
Yeah.
The bank made it for the placenta. Why did they do that? Because they're in cahoots with the government, with everybody else, so that they can keep stealing your money. That's why Spur, or whoever it is, New South Revenue, can go into your account and just take money out. Because it's not your account.
Right.
It's the placenta's account. And who owns the placenta? The government. They're clever. The way they've set it up, it's brilliant.
So just as, what's the, I mean, like you said, you need a safety net. So going back to transferring or selling, instead of selling you the property,
Yep.
is that like a safety net, or how does that come into it?
It's a simple transaction in trade and commerce.
Yeah.
And you'll do a transfer of title as well, and you'll fill that out, and out of courtesy you send it to the Lands Office, saying the land is no longer in the public arena. It's gone into the private. You can do it with your car. You can sell, because you don't own your car, it's owned by the state because it's registered as the owner. So the owner, the placenta, sells it to the living woman for $1, and it's transferred out of the public as a vehicle into the private, where it's not going to be used as a vehicle, it's private property. And you stick it in a trust account, they can't get at it. If they try to pull you over and try to impound it, that's armed carjacking.
So can you do the title transfer while you've got a mortgage on it, or not? You have to sort out the mortgage first? No, you can't do that?
No.
Right.
If I own a car and I owe $3,000 on it, and I sell it to you, who's responsible for the $3,000?
Oh, the centre.
The placenta is. And when they start chasing you, you say, I'm sorry, you need to be speaking to the Registrar General because he's the trustee of that account. I authorise the payment as the executor, and I've sent it to the Registrar General. Is he not giving you the money? Well, then he must be acting in malfeasance in public office. So you send a letter off to the Ombudsman saying that the Registrar General is acting in malfeasance in public office. He has to do his investigation. We turn it on. Now, who's heard of the statute of limitations? Okay. Is this going to stall everything? No. In our system, there's no statute of limitations, not the living man, not the living woman. And in their system, the statute of limitations begins when the fraud is discovered. So you've got 6 years from when you write this first letter saying, oh, there's a fraud going on. You've got 6 years to file. To file, not for the case to run, just to file. Now,
I'd like to do that with work, where I used to work. Get all the documents and say, hey, you paid the wrong person.
Yeah.
So do I go to the pay office or the CEO of the company?
well, gets us into now employment, doesn't it?
Yes.
Who's been with some company for 20 years or something like that?
Yeah.
Huh? 20 years.
30.
Here's what I would do. I would go to the company and say, I want to renegotiate our agreement.
Yeah, but we terminated.
You can do it with the termination stuff as well. If you've been terminated for not taking the jab, you can still do all of that. And it's got nothing to do with the vaccine in the jab. It's to do with the fraud. You say, no, it's stuff for you guys. You want to play hardball? Let's go there.
Yeah.
Same process applies. See how simple it is? Once you understand the fraud, the solution is the same process, just adapted to the need.
So you go to the CEO of that company and say, I want all my contracts.
Yeah, you write a nice letter saying, please send me a copy of my employment contracts, blah, 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 blah. And you can say it's, if they don't supply it, then you can say, well, I'll need to subpoena it anyway. So just give it to me now and save trouble. And make sure you send a notice of legal liability, because that makes them accountable for their actions.
So to the pay office or to the CEO?
To the living man known as
CEO.
Acting as. We don't send anything to a named position or a company, because fictions can't read. You must direct it to a living man or living woman, and they're acting in their capacity as. All right?
Yeah.
So I go to the boss and I say, I want to renegotiate our agreement. He says, oh, okay, you're asking for a pay rise. Well, no, I'm not actually. See, you get $1,000 a week. How much of that do you get? They take tax out? 700. The company's got to pay superannuation on top of that, which is what, 120. Then they pay loading and pay leaves and blah. And let's say the company finishes up paying 1,400 a week. That's what it costs them. You say, I want to change our terms of agreement so that I'm now providing you this service for subsistence. And if you don't know it, look it up. Subsistence. Now, subsistence is what you need to eat, clothe yourself, house yourself, and your family. And subsistence is not taxable. Cannot be taxed.
That's what you're worth.
That's what you're worth. Because there's a maximum that says that a man or a woman is worth to be paid what they're due. But when you ask for it subsistence, you can't be taxed. This $300 here, that was taxed because it's the fiction. That's what they do. That's how they steal it from you.
So the company saves on paying tax.
Well, you say to the company, hey, I'm happy to receive $1,200 a week in cash. Remember when we used to get paid in cash? It was in the envelope?
Yes.
It was cash because it was coming to you. Then they said, we're going to make it easier for you. We're going to make it all digital. Everyone went, oh, that's great. And then bang, suddenly, well, where did my money go? It's gone into the bank and no one knows at first what's going. This is why they're doing all the digital stuff. So you say to the bank, to your employer, I can save you $200 a week.
The 200 is tax.
No, it's costing them $1,400 because they're paying superannuation, they're paying all these government levies.
Ah, okay.
And you're saying, no. I only want $1,200. I'm happy to send you a notice for subsistence and I want it in cash. And they can still deduct that because it's a deduction. It's a cost in running their business. It just can't be taxed.
Is there a law against paying cash?
Is there a law against
paying cash?
No.
I have heard there was.
No, there's no law against paying cash.
Cash is the only legal tender in Australia.
Yeah, and in fact, it goes further than that. The only legal tender is silver and gold, coins. The plastic paper money is monopoly money. It's not worth anything. And in the Currencies Act, you might know, it says that you only have to pay £20 in coins. That's the maximum you have to pay. So you get a bill for $2,000, you go in, you give them 10 $2 coins, you've paid the bill. No one tells you all this stuff. But that's in their system. But we as living men and living women, we want to say, no, I'm sick and tired of your offer of administration of the land. We want to go down a different pathway. I'm a sovereign being. I can determine my own stuff. I've got to remind myself here, because I've got 1,000 things going through my head, and that will remind me. So you say to the company, now small businesses will jump at this, because they can pay you out of the cash register. They'll jump at it. A big corporation will say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And you say, well, let's get the terminology right. You could do it, but you won't do it. I'll say, well, yes, well, we won't do that. Oh, okay. Now I know where I stand. Please send me a copy of my employment contract, which is in the name of who? The placenta. So you come back at them and you say, oh, it seems that you've been defrauding me for 20 years. I was trying to settle it the nice way, but since you're going down that pathway, we'll take the matter to court for fraud. And you're going to have to pay me 20 years of money times 4, and you're not going to get out of it. So what would you rather do, boss? Be responsible for the company having to pay $5 million? Or are you happy to just pay me $1,200 and save $200? It's your choice.
Are they still paying work cover? Because they're going to say, oh no, But that's, they are.
No, then you're responsible.
For paying your own.
No, you have a liability, you're taking on responsibility for yourself.
I like that.
Okay? You're taking responsibility.
The
See what happens when you start to not just know what the fraud is, but how to deal with the fraud. You guys become empowered. And I know, excuse my French, you're shit scared at the concept of this. Because we've been conditioned to be fearful of government. Government's supposed to be serving us. What? But they've conditioned us to be fearful of them. Through their policy enforcers, through all this bullying, intimidation. But you know what? It's easy for 1,000 people to stand up in front of one person and go, "Whoa!" It takes something special to be the one person in the face of 1,000 people and go, "I ain't moving. I'm standing in my rights." They're going to threaten you, but at the end of the day, they know you're right. That's why they threaten you all the time. You haven't paid your bill. We're going to threaten you. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Stand up and say, "Oh, show me the evidence. Show me proof of it. I'm not refusing to pay. I got arrested. I've been arrested heaps of times, as you can probably imagine." It's on my CV.
If you're casual, still do the same thing?
Sorry?
If you're casual, then you do the same thing?
Absolutely.
Because they're just going to say, "Well, we're not giving you any more work," but you can still pay them for the amount of work.
Somebody said to me, "Oh, they're just going to sack us."
Yeah, they will, yeah.
On what grounds? Trying to renegotiate the contract. Where's that a term of sacking someone?
Unfair dismissal.
Yeah, unfair dismissal. You've got it both ways.
They're saying a liability to them, so can an individual...
How can you be a liability when you're saving them $200 a week?
No, they're going to say about the work cover. I've tried it. So can you actually, as an individual, get work cover and show them that you've got it? Is that a possibility in the system?
You can go to any organisation and say, "I want to be insured for work cover."
Right.
Insured yourself. What about like an outdoor education leadership where they're running school camps?
Hang on, let me just finish this off. If they go down that pathway, they want to make sure that the placenta has work cover. They're exposing the fraud. Everything they do to try and trick you actually exposes them even more. Yeah? Sorry, Bernie?
If you work for cash and you're an outdoor education leader and you're running school camps and stuff, and the kids hurt themselves, who's responsible then?
Well, it depends on what's happened, doesn't it?
So if you're paid cash and you're in care, you're in charge of those kids.
Okay. That's why it's called an accident, not an on purpose. You can't be held responsible if a kid falls over and breaks his leg. Oh, well, you were supervising at the time. Yes, he had an accident. It wouldn't matter if 1,000 of us were supervising. That's why it's an accident. It's all bluff. It's all intimidation all the way through. It's all bluff. Bluff and bluster. Bluff and bluster. Should be the name of the show. Might have to call it. I might do a series on this stuff and call it Bluff and Buster. Ultimately, the bullshit you're being fed.
I don't know, it just goes on and on and on. doesn't it?
Well, but here's the thing. Every single thing they've got their grubby little hands on is fraud. The solution is exactly the same.
If you go into the system under your own contract, do you use your living name?
You do a contract between the living woman and whoever is the living man or woman that you're contracting with. It's not with a fiction. You, as a living man or woman, cannot contract with any fictitious entity.
But what if they don't know all this? They'll think you're crazy.
Well, that's their problem, isn't it?
They think that anyway.
You know what? They'll pass it up and someone up the top's going to know what's going on. And they'll go, uh-oh, we're in deep shit here, we need to get out as quick as we can.
The thing is, Alex, the deception that we have been walking along and doing and everything, and this deception, and when we get to the time when what you're talking about begins to be exposed, those who are in control will panic and they will close ranks and they will, according to Revelation, get to the place where you will submit to their deception or you'll be beheaded. That's how desperate they'll get.
It's not going to get that bad. They're the ones who'll get beheaded.
They can lose money, they can lose position.
I appreciate your position, Ray.
Let go of control. They won't let go of control.
I appreciate your position. I don't rely on the Bible to be the truth. Okay?
I appreciate that you don't, but I see what you're saying is pushing them to a desperation point.
They are not going to relinquish. You are absolutely right, because control is going to be taken away from them.
So you don't believe that there is an evil force behind them?
I don't believe there's evil in the universe, full stop. Everything happens with purpose.
Okay, well, it's pretty evil way I look at it.
Well, but that's the way you look at it.
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, that's what you're going to manifest. I see that there's a whole agenda to this. And there's a whole higher agenda. And whether people believe it or not, I'm aware of a lot of stuff that's going on. And I know what's going to happen when Yulakai and the First Nations people step in. They're not going to give up because it's all going to be taken away from them.
Yeah.
And that's already happening. You know Gunner in Northern Territory? He resigned all of a sudden because they served him these documents. When McGowan resigned all of a sudden in Western Australia, well, what's that about? Because 2 days earlier he'd been served these documents.
But wouldn't they know there he's got some woman pregnant?
Of course they're going to make that. It's all distraction.
Would that be why Jesus sit there?
Hang on, no, shh, come here.
Would that be why in New Zealand you sit there and resign as well?
Very good.
Did the Maoris?
They're jumping ships so fast.
Maoris serve her?
The Maoris served her. You know how the foreign government has the right to trade on our land? Because a fictitious, fraudulent contract that was made in 1798, where they brought over 4 elders from New Zealand to sign it on behalf of the Indigenous people here. That's what they rely on to trade on this land. It's all a fraud. And it's all going to come out, people. Be patient.
I was going to say, could you give us a little bit more information?
I can pass this around for everybody to have a look at. Okay, what the First Nations people did. Now, Yulakai is the king of all the First Nations tribes, and he's been going around to all of the tribes and having ceremony with them. And he went to like 18 tribes out in the middle of the desert out past Uluru. And there were 18 elders from different tribes who all came there. They're 80, 90 years old. And they sit there and they look at him and they go, "We've been waiting for you." Bang, they're on board. There's 250 of the 500 tribes have already joined it. There's another 150, this is as of 2 weeks ago, who had agreed and just needed to have ceremony. Because the First Nations people, they must have ceremony. It's really important. That leaves 100 to come on board. You're not going to hear about it through the media, it's just going to happen.
So that turns into with the voice, that's the opposing team, so to speak, the corporate team?
There's only like 24 First Nations people who are saying yes because they're being paid by the government. All the corporations are being paid by the government. It's this big push, and they're going to make it appear as if the voice goes through. Yes, it was all yes. But where does the voice apply?
No, it's just the title.
It's just the title. And the First Nations people are going to come up and say, "You lying bastards, none of us want it. And we're taking our land back." Now, a lot of people...
That's what it's all about, isn't it? To steal the land.
Who to steal the land?
The government to steal the land of the Aboriginals.
Well, that's exactly what it's all about.
Yeah, I know.
And the only way they can do it is get the First Nations people to give it up. And if they vote yes, they come under, which means they've given up their rights to everything.
Yeah, then you will.
It's a huge scam. You
Yeah, but
know
then
it.
they can take it off us as well.
Well, they can do whatever
Because
they
they're
want.
sovereign to the land. That's not what
That's why what's happening with Yulakai and the First Nations people is huge.
Yeah, people say, "Oh, you're full of shit to say that."
Yeah.
That's what it resists you.
Yeah.
They can't do that.
I'm absolutely full of shit, and I'm going to dump it big time on you when it all happens. That's what I say to people. Yeah. You know what? You've got an opinion. I'm not talking to you directly.
Yeah.
I say, you've got an opinion based on ignorance.
Yeah.
I've got an awareness based on actual knowledge of what's going on. So if you want to listen to you go ahead. Sorry, by the way, are you vaccinated? No, not you. You say that there. By the way, are you vaccinated? They say yes. I said, then enjoy the last 18 months you've got left.
5 times, they say to you. 5 times? No, I did.
I say to my people who, like my own family, I go up to them and I say, I just want to know what you want me to say at your funeral. Do you want me to say, I told you so? Or do you want me to say something nice? That's all I need to know. I'm not going to get into the arguments, all of this, because I know what's in that thing and I know what the agenda was and is.
Are they going to die?
Yeah.
In 18 months, in short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the whole agenda was to create a biological weapon to eliminate them. And here's how they were going to eliminate them. The vaccine affects the mitochondria in every cell. The mitochondria is the thing that gives you your energy. It's the thing that creates heat. They're going to overstimulate it with the 5G rays so that all the water that's in your cell will suddenly vaporise, which means that every cell in your body is going to vaporise and you will spontaneously combust.
Disappear?
So, yeah, you'll just go up in a puff of smoke. Look up spontaneous combustion. There's like a foot left or something like that. No radiation, no mess. That's how they plan to do it. They've been planning it for 40 years. No mess. And because of the 5G, they can absolutely zero in on one person in a room, or they can take the whole room out. Or a whole city. That's what smart city's about. See, the smart cities have 5G everywhere. They're going to get everyone in. Let me draw you a parallel that some of you may remember. Back in 1942, they corralled all of the Jews into trains and they took them to gas chambers where they could eliminate them all in one go. It's history repeating itself. They've just got a better weapon. Sorry.
It seems a bit of a coincidence that the Aborigines waited 40,000 years to get it back aside, doesn't it? I mean, they've done this.
Everything happens in divine time. There's a higher agenda to this, Charles. Everything happens when it's meant to happen, not a minute before, not a minute after. Because all of this crap that we're seeing with the kids in the tunnels and all of that has to come out first. All of these darker aspects of human consciousness have to come out before they can be dealt with. Like if you've got an infected boil, what's the first thing the doctor does? He lances the boil. Is it painful? Yes. Then they have to get it all out before the healing process can happen. That's what's happening. So it's all happening in a divine order.
Just going back a bit, theoretically, did you actually sell your birth certificate to yourself as a living person?
You can't, because it's owned by the state. Okay? You can transfer property that is owned because you're the executor. But you as the executor of the placenta would have to negotiate that sale of that product with the state. That's just off the top of my head. When you said it, I went, ooh, tricky. But I'm happy to look into that and have a good think about it. All right, let's have a bit of a break so we can stretch our legs, have a cup of tea, have a drink. And then I'm going to just think if you've got any other questions, get them up, and then I'll just keep throwing stuff at you if that's what you want.